We gotta get it.
Recording.
Now we're good to go. Okay, we'll begin this meeting as usual with a moment of silence. Next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lori, can you do a roll call?
I'll be doing that.
Oh, okay.
Shooty, here. Burdick.
Here.
Negro.
Here.
Quebec.
Here.
Kenzie.
Here.
Bensinger.
Here.
Campbell.
Here.
Kabasa. Kinney.
Here.
Wortman.
Here.
Brannick. Here. Hufall.
Here.
Center.
Here.
Jennings.
Here.
Berlin.
Here.
Corpola.
Here.
Mika.
Here.
Etek.
Here.
Huber.
Here.
Henneman. She's gonna be absent today. She called me. Wiener. 18 present.
Okay. Number B, need a motion to adopt the agenda. The amended agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, Bill.
Is there a microphone there? Because it's hard to hear what Dick's saying.
This is about as good as it's gonna get. We're basically just using the middle microphone. So there's not much else you can do.
You gotta be live to hear us.
Enunciate your words.
Who seconded the motion? Kathy Shooty seconded the motion. Adopt the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Those carry. Thank you. Public comment period. No public comment and nobody on the line. We'll go to the next item. Regular agenda, approval of the June 15th, 2021 county board meeting. Need a motion to approve. Motion made by Liz.
Second.
Second by Ron. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Number 2, sound system for the boardroom.
Okay, this is an item which was tabled at the last meeting that you had. We basically were asked by the board to put out our RFP in addition to seek, one county board member thought that there might be somebody in town that could do this service. We did not get any respondents from the RFP. The person in town is not interested. So we're back to where we started. We basically have 2 proposals. And let me get this so I can see this better here. With the initial proposal, which is in your packet, we're still recommending, in concert with the chairman here, proposal number 4 for $68,000. In addition, when I'm thinking about, and we're going to be using the American Rescue Plan dollars, I had the Heartland Business Solutions come up with a second bid to basically add 86-inch TVs back on these 2 walls. And so part of this is, as I'm thinking, we're all getting older and it's going to be hard to see. And if we're just utilizing, I'm not saying anything, I'm pointing at myself here. If we just have these 2 TVs, which I think are, I don't know, these are, how big are these TVs in this room, Rod?
his microphone.
Okay, I know that they are the largest that could fit, the ones that I quoted for you are the largest that would fit between those bump outs. I think you might have 65s in there.
Okay, so basically, the bid for $68,000 would basically include replacing these TVs with TVs that are just slightly larger, just by a couple inches. I guess what I'm looking at in the long term, I would like to go with the $78,000 bid and put two 86-inch TVs on these walls back here, which would be big enough for all of us to see. And this is something, frankly, I don't see this county putting in a new government center within the next decade or two. So you might as well invest to have the technology going forward for this room itself, in which case this is an all-inclusive package. It would basically have 24 microphones. And so what we would have would be microphones around the room here. We'd have one at this table, then we'd have 3 up at the table where the clerks are sitting. And so my recommendation to the county would be that you'd have your administrator, your county board chairperson, and your county board vice chairperson up there, your county clerk down here, and then individual microphones with individual speakers at your desk. In addition, 2 speakers on the wall behind me, 2 cameras in the corner, and then a control module and all of that. What we have online here is we have Rod Reynolds, and he is from Heartland Business Solutions, which we work with currently. So we have a business relationship with this company already. And so with that, Rod, what would you like to add about this system?
Right. Thanks for having me in the meeting to help explain it for you. Clark, can you share the drawing, or do you want me to share it? Or I think that's the best way for me to explain stuff, because I've drawn it out. And did they send you the newest one? Well, the only thing that's been added was just the 2 back TVs. So let me explain here. So as Clark mentioned, 3 microphone speaker units. So these are pretty compact desk modules with a speaker in them and a gooseneck mic. So every person has their own mic. And I think you can all imagine the advantage that would have for clarity and the intelligibility of all people. And then every base of those microphones where the gooseneck comes out has a speaker. So we don't have to worry about trying to fill the room with speakers overhead and trying to do fancy mix minus scenarios with microphones and speakers, because every single person has their own speaker. And there's nothing like the proximity of the sound to the ear to increase the intelligibility. So that's, I think, the best system. There are a couple of options for this system, this one and a wireless one. The wireless one is more expensive. This one, as you can see by the red lines that connect all those blue microphones, they kind of daisy chain. And so we just need to have maybe 2 or 3 places that they go on. The wire would go from the nearest table to the wall where they plug in. And then we would run that wire over to the equipment rack, which is that gray square up there. And that's kind of we have a variety of different colors to choose from. We quoted a black one. It's kind of looks like a sort of nice looking piece of furniture, but it has the equipment rack inside. So yeah, so everyone, you can ignore where it says Shure ceiling mics. That was a different option. We went away from that option in favor of the table speaker microphone that we quoted. The TVs on the sides are 70 inches. They're just gonna be shoehorning themselves into those spaces. They're as big as we can get in there without extending them beyond those. I mean, we could put it any size we want, but then they'd be out in the room a little bit, if we had a mount, the mounts that we're proposing are swing arm mounts, so we can actually tilt them and move them how we want. But we have another reason for using that kind of mount, is just for helping us to install some of the little boxes that go behind the displays. the latest revision adds 2 more TVs behind the church pews. That's what I call them back there. We can put as big of a TV that's affordable. We use an 86. We use them just about in every job. And in this room, you have a 26-foot front to back distance. Just for your reference, an 86-inch TV provides spreadsheet legibility to up to 21 feet away. So I believe that having 2 of them up there will give you pretty much everything you need as far as the ability to see what you need, especially for the people that are up at the board table up there. And then just ergonomics wise, the people on the left side can more easily see the one on the right as far as craning their necks. And because they're going to be on swing arm mounts, we might be able to cant them in a little bit as well, just to make that viewing angle a little nicer. Then you can see where I have arbitrarily placed the cameras. I put the one over the swinging doors or the dual doors at the entrance to the room, and another one straight across the room in the middle there. These placements are, like I said, arbitrary. They could go wherever we feel the best view would be. These are pan, tilt, zoom cameras. The person who's running the meeting, whoever wants to take that job on, will have a touch panel control. They'll be able to select the camera that we want to use. And in addition to selecting the camera A or camera B, they can select up to as many presets as you want. We can have one that kind of gives a room view, a big wide shot, as wide as possible. And then we can also have like a preset that we could label if we want, front table or left side or right side, however you want to do it. It's really unlimited. And not only do we set those presets for you, but we're able to give you a way to create your own presets just by kind of aiming it manually up, down, left, right, zooming in and out. And then you push up and hold a button, just like on a car radio, you push and hold it, and then it'll beep or do something to give you the indication that that preset is brand new and rememorized. So anything else I can talk about, Clark?
I think one of the benefits I see of this daisy chain microphone system is that it's just, what is it, Cat 5 or Cat 10 lines between the two? Between the mics?
Yeah, they're really just patch cables, computer patch cables. They're just Cat 6 cable. It's just not, they're not even bulky microphone cables. It looks just like a network cable from a computer, like a phone jack kind of, and they go in and out. Each microphone has an in and out, so it's very flexible. These microphones don't need to be assigned to any given table. They can just be set up and plugged in. I mean, it's a little bit of work in the beginning to set up a meeting, but you could also tear it down and you can use different table configurations if you ever wanted to rearrange the furniture. But this is a good way to go.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits I see, because if you want to change how you organize the room, all it is you have to just get Rachel to make some new cables, patch cables, and just put them together. So this kind of, you can create your own environment, because we want to provide something for you that you're still going to be happy with 15 years from now. And who knows what the next boards are going to have. They may have them all lined up like school desks for all you know, but you'll be able to do that with this system. And so, right. Yeah.
I noticed that I didn't mention that up on the top wall where it says wall mount line array speakers, there's a lot of ways to put speakers in a room. This particular one is probably one of the least visually impactful on the great aesthetics of that room. They're fairly, maybe like a 2 or 3 foot tall, very skinny speaker that mounts on the wall vertically. So you'd see, and then they call it a line array because it's a tall linear box, fairly slim. It's drawn to scale there. So you can see it's no bigger than that. And it would be mounted at such a height that we could fill the room with sound that if any audio from the far end, I mean, in addition to coming through your individual mic speaker bases,
audio that's maybe even playing. If you're not even in a call like this, you might be doing some kind of a presentation in there. If you're watching a video that has audio, those speakers will play that sound. So you don't even need to have those mics out there to have room filling sound from those two boxes.
All right, questions?
Is that a push to talk microphone?
The question, Rod, is here, are they a push to talk microphone?
I believe there's a number of ways that can be configured if that's how you want them. I have my programmer in the room with me, so he can help me answer that. The wired discussion mic. Yeah, we can make it be push to talk if you like.
Kathy?
I have a question, and the days when my hearing is not well, will some of the microphones be able to have the earbuds that you would listen to hear more clearly?
Rob, the question is, if we have people who are hard of hearing, is there an option to put in like earbuds or headset to listen to the sound that's coming through the system?
Yeah, we don't have it in here, but we could certainly add a listening assistance system, and it would be, the form factor would be, there'd be, it would be a panel about this, they're about this big, the listens, about, 2 or 3 inches high, maybe 9 inches wide. And it would go somewhere in the room, and it would broadcast invisible to the eye infrared light to the whole room. It floods the room with IR light. And then anybody who needs one could wear a belt pack receiver it's actually, are they the loop kind? No, they're the little receiver. Yeah, and it's a little box like a mic, belt pack mic transmitter, but it's a receiver to pick up that light, and you'd have earbuds in there in your ears, certainly. And they also have the ability to, for people who have hearing aids and they have the telecoil setting, they can put a neck loop instead of earbuds in. They could put a neck loop around their neck, and then the sound would come through their hearing aids.
Okay, so yeah, so you could do a T-loop or you could do an individual microphone.
For the audience, I thought she meant the people sitting.
Oh, you mean, were you talking about the person sitting and using a microphone? Or are you talking about the gallery people?
Well, mostly the people sitting around the boardroom. The question is, if they are hard of hearing, what is the most, efficient way for them to get ancillary or hearing? And that would be like,
Reinforcement, yeah. Well, we've always found that the sound coming out of the individual bases was close enough to most people that they could hear it, but we could certainly introduce the system that I just mentioned for use for really, it doesn't have to be a gallery person who could use that. Anyone could use it. And I'm going to look into this, but I think possibly those bases may have a headphone jack. I'm gonna look into that right now as we speak here, because I have it pulled up.
okay. All right, Laura.
has a question.
Laura?
Okay. Would this system also work well with people calling in or online? That there's not going to be too much reverb in the room or any kind of feedback or anything?
The audio processors that we use manage feedback and echo. It's got echo cancellation built in. I just noticed that there is a headphone jack on those bases. Yeah, so I think simply plugging in a standard 3.5 millimeter headphone earbuds, you would hear whatever's coming out of the speaker. It probably cuts the speaker out, as most do when you do that, but then you'd have it right up to your ears. And yeah, so getting back to the other question, there should be, we will tune the room to eliminate any secondary audio that you hear. Everything should be very intelligible.
Thank you.
My question is, if your microphone is on the table and you're eating or you're rustling your papers, is everybody on the phone or online to hear that? How sensitive are the microphones, and can you shut it off when you're not using it on the table by you?
Did you hear that, Rod?
Was it about paper rustling?
Yeah, so it's basically how sensitive the microphones are. If we have people who are rustling papers, are we gonna get 21 microphones with sounds of paper rustling?
So There's a lot of ways to manage that. You've covered it with one of your original question was the push to talk. If you didn't push it, your mic is not on anyway. Secondly, we can have it so that the chairman of the meeting controls who's talking. That's one way that a lot of people do it. You can have an advanced queue of people that they can push their button that they want to talk on their microphone base. And that puts them in a queue, and then the chairman can open those mics in order to keep a lot of order in the meeting. So that it's super flexible. We can do it a lot of different ways.
Bill.
If we pass this today, how soon before it's installed?
The question is, if we pass this today, what's the turnaround time for installation?
This is a good question these days. Normally we have a pat answer to that, but nowadays it's not the same. I will have to talk to my project manager who will take a look at this entire bill of materials and see. He happens to know which things are taking the longest. There's certain things that we'd normally be able to just get stuff within a week, and now there's certain items, not this system per se, but I just heard about one yesterday, 12 weeks on back order. Just like, it's just because of all this chip shortage, we try to buy a PC right now, it's the same thing. But I can get that answer for you, but it's probably going to be a couple of months before we get it all in and get you on the schedule. 6 to 8 weeks, maybe.
Questions? But
You talk about maybe like having 4 TVs or maybe even 5, can't remember, but would it be better just to have 2 big TVs, one on that wall, one on this wall, and have these 6 or 7 chairs, so they articulates it, they swing around and watch it. So you're not watching the screen all the time, you have to eat.
Yeah, so right now in the bid, the $78,000 bid includes the 2 86-inch TVs on the wall over here. And we already own these, there's no sense in even taking them down. So if we go with that bid, you'll have 2 big TVs over there. And then, so there'll be a total of 4 within the room. Okay, yeah, we're not buying 4, we'd only be buying, my recommendation is that we would buy the 2 big ones. And then probably, I would recommend we also, either beg or borrow chairs, so that especially, people are on these back rows here can just swivel around and look back at those TVs. Because I think, and plus I also think with better microphone systems, these wooden chairs, they tend to make a lot of noise when people are moving around too. So, I would recommend that we seek a motion to approve the latest bid at $78,000 with the 2 86-inch TVs.
This is Laura Negro. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Shooty second.
all right, we have a motion and a second on the table. Motion by Laura Negro, second by Kathy Shooty to go along with the sound system that Clark had presented to us and picked out. And when they had their representation with today, all those in favor of that sound system, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion carries, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Rod, you can send in just send that contract in, or is this the one that you want me to sign right here?
I will have Chrissy tell you what she wants, because this is all stuff that happens after my involvement. I don't want to goof it up. So I thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to number 3 on the agenda, on the amended agenda.
Thanks, Rod.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later, Clark. Thank you.
Northwest Regional Planning Property Tax Resolution. We have Rick Roser here in Business Development for Northwest Regional. Would you like to come up? Chairman will do the presentation.
Okay, so this item You can come here. Come here. This item is coming back. It was tabled at the last county board meeting for further clarification. If it would affect Ashland County at all. What you're asking for is basically a resolution that would go to the state so they can clarify state law. So with that, introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Rick Rozier. I'm a business development specialist with Northwest Regional Planning Commission. Been with the organization for over 20 years now. Know Kathy and Dick from their participation on the board. So I'll try to get right into it. I've made some notes to try to keep myself.
Why don't you sit here so you can look at the people that you're coming across better with your.
Great. Thank you, Clark. This is better, very much so. So I made some notes just to try to keep myself on track and try to keep it streamlined for your consideration. NWRPC is a 10-county organization. And Ashland County has been a member of the Planning Commission since its inception. So it's a tax exemption issue, so that's what we'll talk about. In a nutshell, Ashland County is tax exempt. The other 9 counties that are in the Planning Commission membership are also all tax exempt. So therefore, by extension, the Planning Commission is tax exempt. It has been, always will be, as far as I know, unless they change things legislatively, that it would be different. So what you see today before you is a supporting resolution, just to kind of clarify that, because we had an issue come up in the last year or so that kind of shed some light on a problem that we have, and I'll get into that. But I want to stress that acceptance of this resolution does not affect Ashland County's budget in any way at all, okay? So to give you why am I here then? I guess really what it comes down to is it's at the request of the Wisconsin Counties Association, where we're working with through this process. Kyle Christensen is the Director of Government Affairs, been working closely with him over the last several months. And it's at his request that we do these supporting resolutions. So the background is NWRPC has a network of business enterprise centers around the region. So we have 10 facilities located in 6 different communities across the region. None of those facilities have ever been considered taxable. All 6 assessors over the years have provided that exemption on those facilities. The Enterprise Center Network has been very successful. And I can get into the numbers on that if you want it later on, but I'll just kind of skip over that. What I'm trying to get to is that it's a successful program that pays its own way. It doesn't cost you or anybody else any money. And it actually contributes back to the county and the local budgets. And I can get into that if you want me to. But what happened was about a year ago, the village of Grantsburg, we have a couple buildings there. They had the same appraisal company do their assessments for them for the last 30 years. They had a change in staff. A new assessor came in, and he was from the eastern part of the state, Oshkosh, Green Bay area over there. He came in, he says, I see this differently. You guys are not tax exempt. I'm right, everybody else is wrong. Okay, it's really what it came down to. So we went through the appeal process that's laid out by state statute. In the end, our legal counsel, the village's legal counsel, everybody agreed that we should be tax exempt. Okay, so that's the way it is. The village reversed that decision and we remained tax exempt. However, we incurred over $10,000 of legal expenses through that process. And the village incurred over $5,000 of legal expenses through that process. And it's completely unnecessary use of resources. Okay. So at that point, Donnie Taylor, Burnett County Board Chair, Bob Kopish, Price County Board Chair, they're your representatives on the Wisconsin Counties Association. They brought that up to Kyle and Mark Connell at the Counties Association and said, yeah, we need to fix this, right? Because what it is just a matter of interpretation. if we're open to having a rogue assessor come in and do this again, all of a sudden, we're back to the same situation where we're spending money, the local community is spending money, it doesn't get anybody anywhere. It's just a bad deal. So not only did the counties association said, yeah, we need to fix this, but they took the legislative lead to get this done. Okay, so what you have before you is a resolution. Basically, all it is adding a specific reference to the state statutes that list in there that planning commission is listed in there specifically that we are exempt. So that there's no confusion moving forward. If we have a rogue tax assessor that says, no, you're not tax exempt, we can say, yes, we are tax exempt. Here it is right here, black and white. And that's really all it is. It has nothing to do, it's not going to affect your budget, not going to affect anybody's budget. So what Kyle suggested was that to help him through this process was we passed a resolution at the planning commission level. That was the first thing. And then he also asked if we would have each of the 10 counties pass the supporting resolution individually as well. So the planning commission a couple months ago, the group decided to, they took that issue up. They passed that resolution. Dick was part of that and voted for passing that resolution in support of this. Other than that, 8 of the 10 counties have also passed the resolution. The only remaining county is out there is Taylor County. They didn't have a board meeting until August, so they haven't taken up the issue. So 8 counties have passed it. Ashland County is considering it now, and then Taylor County is in August. So basically where we're at is that this is just supporting Wisconsin Counties Association in their efforts to get this through. Kyle thinks that it's definitely a very possible thing to have happen. He thinks that it's going to be considered at the September legislative session is where that's at. So if you vote to reject it, it leaves the planning commission and the local communities open to potentially incurring these unnecessary expenses again, moving forward, depending on what we have for assessors coming through. Or if you pass, you accept this resolution, it's basically showing support for the counties association to get this done and get us listed in the statutes specifically so that there's no questioning moving forward. And it's pretty much simple as that. But put it this way, it's a lot more complicated, but that's as streamlined as I can get it, right? And again, if you want any information on the Enterprise Center Network program, I'd be happy to share any of that information, but that's kind of it in a nutshell.
You want to take questions?
Yes.
Yeah, Bill.
I'm one of those rogue assessors.
Yeah.
I've been assessor for 40-some years.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you talk to the Department of Equalization, they'll give you guidance, and they're very vague on something that the town boards constantly change too. If you do have this in your district, the state, if this is passed, the state will take it off the equalized value, whatever value that they have on it. So, it won't, if it's taken off, the county or the town or the district won't be punished.
Right.
Because it'll come off. I just wanted, I support this. There's no question about it.
Thank you.
You mentioned the one in Grantsburg. Where are the other ones located?
We have Spooner, Siren, Grantsburg, Iron River, Phillips, Medford. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask if the planning commission sets up a 501c3 for a specific project, would that exemption flow through?
So 501c3s are actually taxable. So the planning commission, because like I mentioned earlier, consists of governmental organizations, then that's why we're tax exempt by default too as well. I guess I don't understand. So yes, it follows through, but I'm trying to understand the question a little bit more.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to ask, if the planning commission set up a project, housing development
Okay,
through a 501c3, would that?
it would flow through if the planning commission itself owned the property. Because 501c3s actually are taxable. So it really depends on the structure. And I don't know other than that, how that would work. I don't expect that we're not, I mean, the CAP agencies like Indian Head Community Action Agencies, they do that housing stuff. We've never have, and I don't expect that we probably ever will.
One question?
The question I have is in regards to the change that you tried to get through Grantsburg. Did you do that through the legal system, through the court system, and was there a published ruling? If
Yep.
there is, I don't see why there'd be a need for this.
So here's the process. The process is that, the first thing is there's the board of review. The board of review just considers valuations. They do not consider exemptions, right? So then the next step was we went to the village board and they actually had the decision of, okay, this is exempt or it wasn't exempt. And they agreed that it was exempt. If the village declared that, no, we don't agree and we want this to be taxed, then it goes into the court system. Okay, and the whole kicker on that is the contract that the assessor had with the village, they were paid, to represent the village through the process, which is right. But the village didn't want to go to court and battle us. I mean, they participated in the project with us over the years. And so that is actually the chain of how it works, is you go to the municipality first, they consider it. If you want to appeal, then it goes to circuit court and you have the battle there, and circuit court makes that decision and interpretation of state law.
Okay, so the town agreed to this and it never got to the courts.
Correct. Yeah, they were like, we don't want to push this. I mean, they have seen so much benefit over the years that the amount of taxes that they're receiving were negligible compared to the value of the program over the years.
Kathy?
So this question goes to Clark and Dick and Rick. So can you just clarify so we all understand? We're voting yes in favor of this resolution. We are Ashland County would support this and with the other 8 counties that have already done it, correct?
Correct.
If they vote no, then they're not going with it.
Right, correct. It's just basically showing your support that this legislation would hopefully at the state level be considered. And that's really all it is.
Do we have a motion on the floor yet?
I'll make a motion that we pass this resolution to support the regional planning to from property tax.
Well, let's see if there's a second that I'd like to speak.
Do we have a second?
This is Laura Negro. I'll make the second.
Or they will second it.
Okay, Laura seconded. Motion made by Kathy Schutte to approve.
And I'd like to speak.
Before we vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna vote no on this for philosophical reasons. You have enterprise centers, and in Ashland, we have the Ashland Area Development Corporation, which is an enterprise center.
Yep.
Specifically, it's an enterprise center versus an incubator. An enterprise center does not have the mission or necessarily to move businesses out of the enterprise center, whereas an incubator, which is what the AEC started as, has a mission of starting businesses and moving them on into the community. So what you have is an enterprise center that right now is paying taxes. Those taxes pay for your local services, your road, your water, your sewer, your fire, all of that stuff. The AEC does a payment in lieu of tax called a pilot. And so one of the arguments that some people have against the AEC is they're competing with the local downtown of Ashland that's trying to fill their storefronts. And if they're not paying taxes, if they're doing the pilot instead to help pay for those services, that they're at a competitive advantage versus the rest of the community. When you say that this won't cost Ashland County any money, well, that's relative to if we were taxing it. If the enterprise centers pay taxes, they would be playing on the same field as everybody else that's trying to run a business, and those taxes would help to pay local services. So you have a competitive advantage by not paying taxes,
And the irony I find in that is you're an organization that's supposed to be a role model for starting and developing businesses. So I don't think philosophically this is fair and makes sense. I understand why you want it, but I don't agree philosophically that we should have a tax advantage versus everybody else is trying to start their business and be successful. And in fact, we know that in Aspen County, when someone doesn't pay their property taxes, well, the county can take their property. And so you don't have the same playing field as others do. And philosophically, that's why.
I understand. Can I address that with some data, please? All right. So the Enterprise Center, in our situation, we've assisted over 40 companies get started. And basically what it does, it helps them preserve their working capital so that they can accelerate their growth. And we are out there with technical assistance, helping them every step of the way. Okay. Our objective, the major goals of our program are create jobs, attract private investment, and build tax base over time. That's exactly where we want to get to. Okay. So the graduates of our enterprise, well, let me go back. Combined between the clients that we have now and the graduates, those companies now employ 464 jobs. They've created 464 jobs. Annual sales of that group is $94 million annually. Okay, payroll of that group is over $25 million in payroll. And at 15.3%, that's about $3.8 million in income taxes that are generated, plus the money that spins around the region. Private investment has been over $105 million. In the last 3 years alone, we've attracted $25 million in private investment between the United Kingdom and South Korea because of this program available with no incentives, not being out there, chasing smokestacks and giving it away. Okay. So the companies that have moved out, just the graduates that have moved out, have purchased over $5 million of vacant facilities that were out there and facilities that are out there and vacant. So the real estate people were happy that we had provided a feeder into the system to go buy those facilities. In addition to that, we had companies that moved out that have constructed over $10 million in new construction for their plant and equipment that their plants that they had out there. So the contractors are happy too. It's a real feed into the community. So between the two, $5 million in new purchases, $10 million in new construction. Okay. Our graduates alone now pay over $400,000 of real estate property taxes to address the issue that you're talking about. So what we're looking at is that, okay, our exemption, we would normally be paying, say, $130,000, $140,000 total on what we have. But over the years, we've created a system, and it's picking up speed more, that our graduates are now paying $400,000. Okay, so you give up a little bit at the beginning, and now it's more than paying for what we generated in the past. And it's continue, that trend is continuing more and more. The idea behind it is to grow companies from within the region, create jobs, attract private investment, build that tax base. It's been successful, it's working, we're going to continue to do it.
And my point is, yes, I understand that stuff. I looked at the transfer one number of years ago because of the ABC here. My point is that every year, if you're tax exempt, everyone else in the community, the county, is paying the taxes to provide the services to support that enterprise center. If you're truly as successful as you are, and I guess I understand you're successful, I just think you should pay your fair share of taxes because every other business that's trying to make a go of it is paying their share of taxes too. So
Sure.
I say it's a philosophical difference.
Yeah.
You have a tax advantage, and the reality is the rest of us pay for that advantage.
Yeah, and it was just, and maybe you guys wouldn't want to make that decision, but I know that the 6 communities that these things are in made the decision that they wanted to forego those taxes up front to be able to generate more taxes on the back end. It's like a TIF, if you will. So it is philosophical. You want to go down that path and forego it up front and make it out the backside or not. So that's kind of what the difference is, I guess.
Well, every year this happens. It's not
Yep.
paying tax. It's not just up front.
Yeah. Yeah, but then now there's $400,000 that every year gets paid every year by the companies that have gone through the system.
Anybody else?
Question?
I guess at this point, this resolution is in support or to show support. And honestly, I still don't feel comfortable with this. And at that point, I also am going to vote against this, and that I'm not comfortable weighing in saying, yeah, this is something I embrace. So this is not a make it or break it. I'm comfortable with the legislature looking at this issue and deciding for themselves with all my opinion on whether this is.
Laura's had her hand up for a long time.
Thank you, Kathy. All I had a question on was the, do you have numbers of how Northwest Regional Planning has improved Ashland County?
Well, our enterprise center network has not been, present in Ashland County simply because of the Ashland area enterprise center. I mean, we're not going to go 5 miles down the road and put up another one. So that's why it doesn't affect your budget. I don't expect that we're going to put a facility here to, have a problem, do that in the future. We're not going to compete with Ashland Area Development Association. We don't want to do that whatsoever. So anyway, net effect really not on Ashland County from this program. We have worked back and forth with them. Dale Kupchak over the years, we were on the Wisconsin Business Incubation Association together. Clark is there. We've talked a number of times. So anyway, I mean, we have close working relationship, but is pretty much where it stopped.
Thank you.
Call for the questions.
Thank you, Mike.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Roll call, vote, please.
You're calling the question. Okay, so we get a roll call.
Murray,
No, we vote on the call of the question.
so what is this call of the question? This is what call of the question. Murray,
On the question, yes.
That's just the first.
Negro,
Yes.
McKenzie,
Yes.
Quebec,
yes,
Metzinger,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Kinney,
Yes.
Wortman,
No.
Brannick,
Yes.
Hupal,
Yes.
Stendor,
Yes.
Jennings,
yes,
Berlin,
Yes.
Corpola,
Yes.
Mecca,
Yes.
Vitek,
Yes.
Hubert,
Yes.
Judy. Yes. 18 yes. 17 yes.
Thank you all very much. Oh, it didn't pass yet. That was just,
Call the question.
Okay, now we're
okay, now,
gonna have a roll call vote on the passing the resolution.
This is, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Are you ready?
Negro,
No.
McKenzie,
No.
Quebec,
yes,
Metzinger,
Yes.
Campbell,
No.
Kinney,
No.
Ortman,
Yes.
Brannick,
Yes.
Hufal,
Yes.
Stendor,
No.
Jennings,
yes,
Berlin,
Yes.
Corpola,
Yes.
Mecca,
Yes.
Vitek,
Yes.
Hubert,
Yes.
Judy. Yes. Burdick,
No.
yes. Pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your time.
Everything else.
Dick, this is Charlie Ortman. Can I have a second?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to tell this group, I waited politely till everyone was done to try to ask a question, and then you called the question on me. So I voted yes, and I didn't even get to get this group's opinion on what my question was. So just to let you know for the future, I'm not holding a grudge or anything. I'm just letting you know that that happened to me just now. So thank you.
Okay, moving along. Ready for it? Number 4 on the agenda, vehicle registration fee, which is a pretty up
I make a
name for
motion to
road
pass
tax.
it.
I'll second.
Pardon me?
I made a motion that we put it on the floor and pass this resolution.
And it was
It's
second.
on the floor when I announced the item.
Move for adoption. It's the next one on the agenda and the resolution is already there and I'm making a motion to put it on the floor.
Okay, do we need a second for that then? I don't know.
I'll second it.
Kathy, shoot.
Now we can discuss it now.
Okay, so this item basically is coming back to you from, I don't know, fall of 19, I think it was. Is that when we had this last? So nothing's really changed on this with the, we basically did a write-up. Matt Erickson, our highway commissioner, is not able to attend this meeting today. He is at a funeral of one of his friends who died, and so I said I would carry the conversation for him. I won't read the write-up. You've all had an opportunity to read that. It talks about the cars and trucks that are applicable to the registration fee. You would register it. You basically pay the fee when you register a vehicle, and then you pay the same registration fee every year when you get your tabs. This money would be utilized for the road department. It can only be utilized for the road department. And because let me double check here. In the, you can't read this, I can't read this, but it has been online before multiple times. This is the 2021 to 2034 highway improvement plan. And so this money is what you use to repair your roads. We run across the same problem. Right now we're we're borrowing $520,000 a year off debt levy to put towards the roads. Then the highway department is also utilizing money that was in their road fund. And as I've said before, the road fund doesn't have its own separate bank account, so that money is not there. You're going to have to manage from a cash basis how you pay for road department. So in this case, the first one is I think it's at 520,000. And that basically requires Matt to try to pull $1.1 million out of his road fund next year. That's probably not going to happen because he probably won't have the cash. The next one, I can't read it from here, obviously, but one of them is the actual, where you're going from anywhere from 300,000 a year to 3 million a year based on the actual construction for these projects. And then another one is basically $1 million a year. So by putting in this registration fee, which can only be used for roads, you're basically asking people who drive on the roads to pay for the roads. Now, granted, there's an argument to be made that there are people that are driving on the roads that aren't paying for the roads. So we have people who own businesses. The businesses will not be paying additional dollars for the roads. The individual registered their car in Ashland will be paying for it. Tourists who come to Ashland will not be paying for this. Just people that live here will be paying to repair the roads for the county. So I would recommend that we approve this at $25 for the county highway department for the road work and road construction. And basically that'd just be, you basically just put it towards your road construction. It'd help you in future years make your schedule more doable, given the limited cash that you have on hand. Then we have a motion and a second already.
Gary,
I'm gonna stand just so everybody can see me as a man. You know, you can call it a wheel tax, vehicle registration fee, whatever, change the name is still the same. I have a duty as a representative not to make this decision about me. I can certainly afford $25 for my vehicles, but a lot of my constituents can't. And I think as a county board member, before you vote on something, not by your head, you should ask your constituents. I contacted 12 townships. I dare say anybody else in here actually contacted their constituents. Not having them call you, ask them what they think. Kathy and I have been involved in a lot of the township business in the southern part of this county right now, because they're really concerned about that we're not cutting things before we're raising their taxes, and this is a tax. If this was such a good idea, then why is only 18% of the counties in the state have this? Only 18% of the counties in the state of Wisconsin have a real tax. Now, registrations went up last year across the board. Cars are now over $84, trucks are up over $100. When you buy a car, check the difference. Those double. The registration fees for a new car or used car that you buy, those fees don't. They're already paying for the roads. I have heard from the townships I've been to, and I represent Peekskill, the General, the Village of Buttercup, I've also been to Shannon. We're going to Chippewa. I've heard from those folks, and it's loud and clear. Before you raise our taxes, and this is a tax, show us what you found. So Gary, representing the people, in these 12 townships, who we all represent, I can vote.
after,
So Gary, like Gary said, we've been down in the southern part of the county, and yesterday we made phone calls to ask people, do they want us to support this or not? And I'm going to vote no, and I'll tell you why. A lady that I know is in her early 70s. Her husband has passed away. She's trying to live on Social Security. She does not have a pension. And every month she said, we're asking a wheel tax, a gas tax, a sewer. You've already put the sewer tax on there. And she wasn't happy with that because the county does not pay for our septic tanks. The property owner does. Now you're asking to put $2,500 for a car. That when is it going to stop? I'm gonna vote no.
Lance,
I like Gary, I'm not concerned about my vehicles. I've got 2 vehicles and $25 is $25, but we got a surprise last year ago at this time. We have 2 vehicles. One is a hybrid, the other is not. We got a registration renewal for our hybrid and they tacked another $75 on to our registration for our hybrid, which is now $160 a year, which is due at the end of this month. Because we're not paying as much, so theoretically, we're not paying as much gas tax because we're not using as much gas in the hybrid as we are in a regular vehicle. So the state decided that they're gonna tax us by charging us $75 more to register our hybrid vehicle. And ironically, both of our vehicles get about the same gas mileage. But we're paying $75 a year more to register our hybrid than we are my regular gas vehicle, my regular vehicle.
yes. Philomena,
Oh, hey, good morning, everyone. You know, I'm going to vote against this proposal at this time because I'm concerned about just the audit that's happening, and I'd really like to get some more information about the manner in which funds are being expended in Ashland County prior to seeking additional funds from taxpayers. This kind of tax is a regressive tax, and so it affects people who are lower income. They're paying a greater percentage of their they're taking a bigger hit because they just don't make as much money. And that I feel like this is that's concerning to me. especially since we don't, as a county board, have a clear picture of, you know, how expenditures are being made. And, you know, I feel like we really need that information before we make a decision like this. So I will be voting no. Miigwech.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Laura got her hand up and I'd like a shot too, Dick, when you can.
This, call it what you want, but it's tax increase. You look at the highway department, and we all know that we can fix our road, we can put more money into our roads. We had a resolution asking about whether we should increase taxes for the county, and we were clearly told no. And what this is just an end run around. We're gonna take $25 from every registered vehicle and put it in the highway fund. That money that was normally coming out of our taxes, our levy taxes, is gonna be used somewhere else. It's not gonna change the amount of road work that we're getting done. All it's doing is just shoveling a little money over there that's coming from this registration or tax, wheel tax, whatever you wanna call it. Then that money can be used somewhere else. We all know that we have financial issues within the county that we have to resolve. But this is not helping us really at this point. I cannot support this because it truly is just an increase in taxes right now.
Go.
I'm going to stand up and talk because I'm kind of quiet. I'm on the highway committee and I'm on the executive committee, and I supported this increase in registration. Now, I was eating breakfast this morning and I wrote this little thing. So before you make your final decision, I would like you to listen to what I'm presenting. Thank you. If it's passed at $25, that's 6.8 cents per day, less than 7 cents, $2.05 a month per vehicle, $25 a year. We had 2 referendums to increase taxes. They both failed. The registration fee, if it's increased, can only be used for highway department uses. So if we have a mandated program that's funded, that's not funded, we have to do it. We're going to be short of money. We have to get it from someplace else. We're not going to have any more money to keep fixing the roads or doing stuff like that. That's the end. The shoulders on the road, people want them cut. Well, they're not going to have the money to keep continuing to do that if everything is cut. Ashland County passed a hiring freeze a couple months ago. Okay, as far as I know, there's not been one person that has left Ashland County that we have not replaced. We could possibly go into debt service and borrow more money, but we keep going further and further in the hole. We're getting less services. Okay, what services do people want to cut? Do you want to cut the Meals on Wheels, BART, the youth programs, fair? Who's going to cut it? What do you want cut? Are you going to cut employees? We haven't done that so far. I don't want any of these programs cut. I think the county is just, we've been cutting for years. You know, we're down to the bare minimum of workers. And if people, the older people, I'm not on any of these, the older people programs yet. I'm not on any of the youth programs now. So, you know, the thing is, I'm pretty close, but, so I'm just saying, we're providing these services. We don't want to cut services. We want to maintain what we got. I don't want the county to go further in the hole. Around August 15th this year, Ashland County will have over $3 million outstanding in taxes. That isn't very much if you consider, well, it's going to come in, it's going to come in. But we, Ashland County, has to settle with all the districts in full So we have to pay the school off now. We have to pay the local districts off now. We don't have the money. We have money at hand, but it's dwindling. And so I think that's very important. The forest revenues are down this year, so we have less money. Everything's costing more money. The county is going to have to either come up with more money or cut services, cut people. What do you want to do? We're not going to push this off. I'm from Southern Ashland County. I'm from the town of Chippewa. Okay, Gary talked to some people down there. He represents that. I work for the town of Peekskill and the town of Shannon. I have a house in the town of Chippewa. I have land in the town of Chippewa. Not everybody is against this tax. Some people say, hey, this is a lot fairer tax. The people that use the roads or have the vehicles, they would pay the tax. If you don't have a vehicle, if I live down there and if I don't have a vehicle, it's not costing me 1 cent. Okay? So how will this affect me? I got 2 vehicles, I'm gonna pay $50 more. I had 4 at one time. Well, then I would have had to pay $100 more. I only have 2 now. So I feel this is a fair tax. People pay for what they use and what they have. So I am supporting that, and that is my opinion. I have talked to some constituents in my district. I'm in District 4. I had 2 or 3 people call or talk to me the last time. They were in favor of it. I had about 2 or 3 people call me and say they were against it. Okay, I'm elected to this board to make a decision that would benefit Ashland County, and I feel that this is important to be passed.
Anybody else?
Charlie was on. Charlie.
Could I wait for Laura and go after Laura? She's had her hand up for about 3 years.
I'm in the same place I was the last times we've had this. We also have calculations that we don't have yet. We don't have the lost revenue calculation. We don't have an update from our healthcare plan consultant to see what changes have been made for that, to see what we have. We have a new administrator we're hiring soon. You know, I get, and the people that have contacted me or that I've talked to, I have a few for like more like 2/3 against. And yep, I'm definitely the same as Bill as yep, we're supposed to make the best decision that we can with the data we've got. And right now we don't have all the data. And I believe this is one thing that we hold as the last tool in our toolbox. Because something like this for people who are check to check people, another $25 could mean part of their budget for groceries for a week. Or it could be a barrier to them being able to afford their registration, which makes them not be able to possibly drive or get tickets. We force people into positions like that if they can't afford it at that time. You know, and this could be $25. Childcare is not inexpensive. $25 could keep people in jobs. I get that we need more income. What we need is to make a solid long-term plan with our economic development pieces and our investments, and we need to get some of our expenses in check. Our departments have been working hard on this. We don't have the full picture, and this is not something I'm willing to vote for at this time, so I'll be voting against. Thank you.
May I go now? Chair Pufall.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Thank you. I'm so very conflicted. I've never been at a meeting where I've agreed with everything everyone said, even when they're opposite. But what I've been discovering is I talk to people, and this epiphany came to me the other day. a lot of the people I talk to feel that the government is immune to the laws of economics and that everything we do never goes up in cost. That we can continue to do everything we did 10 years ago for even less today. Yet they themselves want raises at work, their grocery bills go up, their power bills go up, everything they pay for goes up, but anything that we pay for as a government body has gotten cheaper in the last 20 years. If we're gonna do these things, we have to pay for them. And I'm absolutely in agreement with Supervisor Metzinger. We can't, you know, I hear them complain about the roads and then they complain about what it costs to fix a road. Well, fixing roads goes up exponentially over the years, not in small bits at all. So my first inclination was we need to double this registration fee. But Philomena's correct. It is right. It's a regressive tax. So what do we do? Put it on a graduating scale? Let the richer people pay more? Something like that? I don't know. But I do know this. I support this, and I'm sad that it's a regressive tax. But we have bills. We have things we're supposed to do, and unless we start cutting things, we're just kicking the can down the road, and it's exactly as Bill described. So I support this, and I would like to see it doubled. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I understand that our county needs this money, but I too represent, you know, a very financially capped district 9, that many people live check to check. And this is a lump sum. I mean, as a cashier at the store, you see people coming in to pay their registration fee on the kiosk there. And they're like, oh my God, this has gone up again. And then my husband said, well, it was 110 for one vehicle and you get another 25 on that. You know, that's the difference between paying for, you know, something to eat that week, you're not gonna go out to eat or something. And you see more and more people coming in to pay their tabs, they're not spending a dime at that store during that time. You know, and like somebody else had said, but this is people that are paying check to check. If it was, you know, not lump sum, maybe it would be easier. And if it's this month, is that gonna be the choice of somebody going to get their kids their stuff for back to school? Everything is going up. I understand that. I understand we need the money, but I am gonna vote no because of my constituents.
First of all, we should keep in mind that we can raise the debt levy as much as we want without a referendum. So if the board decides they want to fund roads, when it gets to budget season, we can raise the debt levy however much we choose to fund roads. We just have to decide what % we're willing to fund. I'm going to vote no on this in part because we can raise the money we want for roads through the debt levy, and come October or November, we'll make that decision on how much we're going to put into roads. It's not like we can't raise that. I have an issue with this being very regressive, and that means the poorer people pay a higher percentage than otherwise. My house in Ashland here is real close to the average assessed value in Ashland County. This tax would raise my cost of living here about 2.5%. For someone in Ashland County with a house that's maybe 55, 60,000, it would raise their cost of living here about 5%. Someone that's got a $450,000 house, well, it would raise their cost of living here by 0.5%. Never mind that we won't ask Walmart to pay anything. The family that owns Quick Trip won't pay anything. The businesses that you see in the downtown won't pay. Business owners that live out of town won't pay. So I'm going to vote no on this. But when I vote no on this, I'm going to keep in mind this fall in budget season that when we want to fund roads, I've got to be willing to raise the debt levy by an amount I'm willing to support to fund those roads. And that's where the ball is going to be. It's going to be in the debt levy. And that way on the debt levy, everybody that's on the tax rolls in Ashland County, persons, businesses, they're all going to pay that debt levy in direct proportion to their assessed value. And the wheel tax is in no way in direct proportion to your assessed value.
So I am gonna have to support raising the debt levy to pay for some roads this fall, if I vote no on this.
Kathy?
One last thing, I'll give you an example. For us sitting here, maybe $25 isn't a lot. The guy out in Marengo is an old farmer. He gets $650 a month social security. And we keep raising his taxes. So how do we expect him to pay $50 more because he's got a truck and a car when he makes $650 a month social security? I'm not.
Bill?
I have one last thing to add, sorry. Does the debt service ever have to get paid back? Yes. Who's going to pay it? Are your kids? Are you going to be paying it back 10 years down the road when you're older? I just think the debt service does have to be paid. Is that right?
I'll take that question. What you've been funding the road departments with and other capital expenditures are very, very short-term debt. We're taking out a note from the bank right down the street here, that way. And we're basically paying it back 60 days later. So we're taking it out in mid-December, we're paying it back in mid-February. And so it's just an avenue, it's a exemption to the state levy limit laws that county boards, as Pat has alluded to, that you can raise the debt levy as much as you want to. You have to utilize it for things that are allowed under state law, court orders, court order replacements. You can use it for insurance, you can use it for risk management, you can use it for capital expenditures. There's all kinds of things that you can utilize debt levy for. And I'll just roll on a side note. I mean, everything is relative and states fund their government services differently, but in Minnesota, I have one car, I pay $325 a year to register it. I have another car that's slightly over $400 a year to register it. Okay, but that's the price you have to pay in Minnesota if you want to register a car and you want to drive on the roads. We wouldn't even notice if they had $25 difference because we're already paying over $400 for one vehicle. So anyway, that answers your question. Thank you.
So, if I may, what the administrator just described is the county's paying us off in 60 days, so we're not building a large amount of debt, and I totally support the way you're doing it, because otherwise it's built and grow. Is this an accurate statement? The county has a cash flow problem, meaning paying the bills as we go, but for a county our size, we have relatively little debt compared to what we might otherwise have, which I think is the right side of the picture. We just have a cash flow problem to pay the bills. But we're paying that debt off and not rebuilding the market as we go, which is a responsible thing to do, so we're not leaving this in the future. So we need to continue with that.
Anybody else? At the last highway committee meeting, this was discussed and voted on to pass it forward to the Polk County Board. Although some of those people that voted to pass it on said they were going to vote against it. What I attempted to do at that meeting to no avail was to, if we're going to do a wheel tax, to at least get down to the average of all of these communities that have them, which is $20, or even propose a $15 one, which would be a lot less offensive to taxpayers and still raise some money. Now, the question is that sometimes when you ask for too much, you don't get any. And I think that a smaller amount may go through. I don't believe that this is going to. I would support, say, for example, a $15 increase. And I sympathize with you, Clarence, and I can't believe they did that. They're pushing everybody to go electric, and then you're going to penalize you for it. That's crazy. So anyway, I'm not going to support this at that rate. So I guess we need a motion.
We have a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Yeah, so yes, we have a motion and a second at $25. So be appropriate for you to call the question at this time.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this at $25. You don't have to do a roll call for this, I guess. Let's close it.
We should.
All right, can we do a roll call?
This is to approve the vehicle registration fee. Mackenzie,
Oh.
Quebec. Quebec. Let's go back. We're copying something. Metzinger,
Yes.
Campbell,
No.
Kabasa, absent, Kinney,
No.
Wortman,
No,
Brannick,
No.
Hufall,
No.
Stendor,
No.
Jennings,
No.
Berlin,
No.
Corpola,
Yes.
Mika,
Yes.
Vitek,
No.
Huber,
No.
Shudi,
No.
Burdick,
No.
Quebec.
No.
Thank you.
How about Negro?
April.
Oh, yeah, Negro.
It's another no.
15 no, 3 yes, fail.
Okay, motion fails. Does anyone want to consider passing that wheel tax at a lower rate, or is that a dead issue?
I don't think you can.
Can't do it.
This meeting. I don't think you could at this meeting.
You have to post it?
Right.
You have to post it?
Yeah, we have to come back with another resolution, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next thing on the agenda, union contract.
This is Laura Negro. I'll make a motion to accept that.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second on the table to accept the union contract. I guess we gotta do a roll call for this, I'm involved. Do a roll call?
We get a synopsis of what this is all
Basically, we were tasked to do a 2-year contract. You had a contract from, that was in existence for 20 and 21. This is a contract that will be in existence for 22 and 23. In short, your contract basically stipulates, from a financial standpoint, 1% in January of 22, 1% July 22, 1% January 23, 1% July 23, and 2 one-time payments for, from the ARPA funds for essential workers that basically is allowed under the federal regulations of $1,250 on January 1st, 22, and $1,250 on 23, January 1st. In addition, there's a couple language changes within the contract concerning there's if you're over so many hours deferred comp, it gets put into a deferred comp clarification into an account which the employee sets up, not that the county sets up. In addition, we basically changed how we do uniform allowance. In the past, it was a reimbursement. And now we're basically, for every new hire, they are going to receive $500 and they will retain the equipment versus the county trying to get back belts or shirts or something like that. It was kind of determined from the sheriff's department that $500 would get you the bare minimum of the cheapest stuff you could get to start in at the sheriff's department. So that's your contract with the union.
More questions?
Are there projections as to dollar wise, how much this would increase budget?
The ARPA funds would be $47,000. The 1% increase, or the 2% increase per year, I did not calculate that out. So we haven't gone through we're basically going through the budget process right now. And that we're basically, the finance committee had instructed the departments, and the information Lori is sending out today is 2% for the county staff also. And so it's basically in line with that, with the exception of the essential worker premium pay from the ARPA funds. So we'll find that out. I think overall, this goes back to your, when you give increases to county staff, costs go up. I think last year when we were considering 2% for the staff, overall included the union, I thought the increase was around $150,000 was the total increase for the county at that level. So, but it's 2% this year, 2% next year, 2% the year after that. You run across a limiting factor at some point.
Richard. Any more questions?
And a quick question is, how does this apply to jailers and other staff?
So the union is only represented per State Act 10 with the 19 individuals that are deputies. So management, the sheriff's department is not included, and correctional officers are not included. So it's just the 19 deputies that are sworn officers.
Have you looked at, or what are we gonna do with the ARPA funds for the other employees?
So the
Enough to do it, I guess is what I'm asking for.
yeah, so we do have ARPA funds on the discussion later on. When you step outside of the realm of two limited classifications, namely public health and law enforcement or emergency responders. Once you step outside of those bounds within the federal guidelines, according to my reading, you basically are limited. You cannot provide any premium pay or bonus pay to those classifications if they are above the average income of your county. So it gets complicated quickly, because then you start looking at the people who have jobs in the county. Traditionally, counties are fairly respectable jobs. We'd have to do an analysis of each position to find out if they are above the average earnings of the county. So we've not gone down that road yet. One of the secondary methods to move some of that money, and I'll be discussing this in the ARPA funds, would be go through the lost revenue calculations. And then that would wash that of normal federal restrictions of the utilizations of the money. And our fiscal consultants are going through that calculation right now. So I don't have a recommendation besides the 2% for staff.
More questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to ratify the union contract. Roll call.
Quebec,
Yes.
Metzinger,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Kinney,
Yes.
Ortman,
yes,
Brannick,
Yes.
Hufall.
Yes.
Sendor,
Yes.
Jennings,
Yes.
Berlin,
Yes.
Corpola,
Yes.
Mika,
He had to leave forward.
Vitek,
Yeah.
Huber,
Yes.
Shudi. Yes. Burdick,
Yes.
Negro,
yes,
McKenzie,
Yes.
17 yes, pass.
Oh. 19 or nothing,
17 yes.
17, yes. Torian's missing and John. Okay, union contract is ratified. Thanks, Joe. Number 6 on the agenda is the redistricting committee.
Okay, as you well know, this is your annual opportunity to draw your lines and redistrict. There's two things on the agenda today that we're going to be discussing. One is we want to ratify a redistrict committee. And the second would be, after that would be debating or considering if you want to change the number of districts within your county. The redistricting committee would basically be made up of the county board chair, 2 county board members, the county clerk, the county administrator, and the GIS coordinator. This committee would basically give direction. Once the county board has set on agenda item number 7, once the county board has set the number of districts that you want for your county, this committee would basically give directions to staff concerning what the overall goals are, concerning, unified current lines if possible, placement within the current ward system, within other municipalities, other types of consideration. And then once the committee just gives these overall high level guidance to staff, it's a staff's determination to basically, to just follow the guidance. So it's not just Brittany making this up, she's following the thing. So we need 2 county board members that are interested in joining the redistricting committee that would be appointed by the chairperson of the county board in order to move this topic along.
Just have a question.
Yeah.
I've been on this board for 2 redistricting sessions in 2000 and in 2010. And both of those times, if I remember correctly, the extension office was involved in drawing the lines.
Yes.
Yes.
They're not interested in doing that. That's outside of their scope. We're following WCA guidelines concerning what they want us to do. Brittany, would you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so in the
You have to
past,
come up here, by the way.
in the past, our land information officer was not GIS friendly. She did not feel comfortable working on the GIS software that redraws those lines. So that is why the extension stepped in. In this redistricting process, all the land information officers and the county clerks, and if they have a redistricting committee, that is who's working on it in this function. So that is why I've stepped into that role.
It's more in line with the guidance is the extension. Some counties have a very involved extension. Some counties have a half-time person. The county south of us has a half-time position. This is not one of the core competencies of extension. They helped you out because you didn't have the staff that are able to do it. But since we have the staff that are able to do it, we're aligning ourselves with best practices from the Wisconsin Counties Association.
Kathy?
I'm having a hard time comprehending that we only have 2 people of the 21 board supervisors drawing the lines. I think it should be more, but I mean, I think there should be more involvement from the other people in the county board, not just 2.
Isn't that according to the WCA?
My understanding, this is kind of the recommended guidance, but if you wanted to have more people on it, there is nothing to say you can't have the entire county board give guidance. The issue is, there's going to be a super tight timeline. And I'll just briefly show you what's going to happen. As you well aware, this is why this is a critical issue to respond quickly. This came out yesterday from WCA. So we had a meeting with basically all of the municipalities, the Towns Association and the Counties Association. Best case scenario is we get the data from the Wisconsin counties and the contractor who deals with the data on the 23rd. They don't think they're going to be able to get it actually until September 1st, but this is our best case scenario. That day, we basically would publish a notice of a hearing. We have to give 3 insertions, so it's a class 3 notification. By September 15th, counties would hold a public hearing and adopt a tentative plan. So between August 23rd and the 15th, you're gonna have a meeting and staff's gonna have to produce this whole thing. That'll be the public hearing. We would transpire that to municipalities on the 18th. Simultaneously, we would notice another class 3 notice for a county hearing. So municipalities are just gonna get like a couple weeks. They're gonna have to turn this over. And then we basically would hold a public hearing on this sometime the first part of November, because by November 23rd, county and municipal clerks have to publish a class 1 notice for the approved districts in order for people to take out papers for their towns, cities, and county positions. So this is normally you would have got the data on April 1st. The normal state statutes are counties have, according to state law, counties have 60 days to basically form a committee, analyze, draw the lines, send it to the municipalities. The municipalities have 60 days to meet, provide comments, ask for changes, comes back to the county. The county incorporates any suggestions or changes back into another 60-day period. It is a 6-month process. This is probably going to happen between, like I said, it's going to happen. I mean, and I actually foresee the contractor is on the call yesterday. He does not think he's going to get the August 23rd meeting date. He thinks he's not going to have it until September 1st, in which case you're going to have like one meeting and that's all you're going to have, because you're going to have to provide the timeline for staff to be able to provide this guidance.
So, okay, go.
When will this take place as far as the election? Will it be in time for the April election, April 2022?
So there was a bill that was passed, drafted by WCA and passed by both the House and the Senate at the state level. It was vetoed by the governor. Obviously, anytime you have two political parties from opposite sides, they don't tend to cooperate on anything that has the word election on it. So in this case, the bill that we wanted the governor to sign would have pushed this out. So we would have had 60, 60, 60. You would have run and taken out papers in your current districts in December. It would have been effective from your perspective, for the election that would happen in 2024. But it would be downstream starting in the summer of 2022 for any primaries or 22 elections. So in this case, that bill didn't pass. This is why this is a mission critical timeline that is going to be super challenging. WCA is getting legal counsel together because there might be counties who will not be able to accomplish this. What does that mean? If you basically if you can't accomplish this, does that mean you redistrict later? Does that mean your people take out papers and they're going to be living in the wrong districts? It's a legal issue that has no precedent. We don't have any idea what would happen. So in this case, we're putting all our eggs in this basket to get this done. My gut guess is it's going to be a perfunctory meeting. If you look at agenda item number 7, number of districts in the county, if you keep your districts at the number 21, which I would anticipate you would do, I would guess that this will be a simple meeting of saying, keep the lines as close to what they are, because to do anything else is problematic. So that being said, I would recommend that you basically have, whatever you want for the committee, but it's got to be decided today. We're going to have a meeting that's going to have to be relatively quickly once we get the data, and we can't set the meeting till we get the data. So I guess it's up to Chairman Pufall to pick a couple people, or if people have expressed interest to Chairman Pufall.
Well, I'd like to ask for volunteers. If anybody's interested in being on the district committee, but don't hurt yourself hustling up to volunteer.
Hey, Dick,
Ron? Okay.
I just have a question. The highway divides the county board up into the south, north, east, and west. My campus committee did the same thing. so you have somebody from each of the areas. What if you get 2 people from the city of Ashland and nobody from the south?
Does this county not just make a recommendation to the full board? I mean, do they have the decision authority, or is it just to make a recommendation to this body?
So what will happen is this will be make recommendations, and I just said there'll be these generic recommendations. If you're at 21, just what I said before. Staff will go ahead and put this together, land information, GIS, other staff that they feel is needed. They'll come back with a plan that has to be published according to this timeline. The county board's gonna have to approve it. So the governing body approves the districts. Goes to municipalities, same thing. So basically, it would get very complicated if you want to move down to 13 board seats. That's gonna be a lot more work, and the committee is gonna have to put a lot of thought into how do we draw 13 districts.
I get that, and that's a separate question at this point, as far as the number of districts. I'm just curious about I myself would rather see fewer county board members on this committee and see more input from other sources, since it's gonna come back to us for a recommendation of what we're gonna do in the first place. Let's get more information from the school districts, the towns, whoever, and stay out of this as far as drawing the lines for ourselves. That's my feelings on it. We have more than enough, I think, just the chair on that committee would be enough, since it's coming back as anyhow. Give those 2 other board seats that are currently designated to some other entity. The county clerk's office should have a big say in this, and they have to deal with the voting issues and what makes sense and what doesn't.
Heather, do you have any knowledge of what other counties are doing for their committees? I'm kind of following what your local counties do, and I'm basically following the same pattern as local counties in northwestern Wisconsin. But part of the issue is we need to pick these people with names today, because otherwise there's not another opportunity for you to ratify the county board recommendations, the county board chairperson ratifications. So,
All right, we have another volunteer, Gary Murray volunteered to serve on that committee. So we have 2.
you could have more if you wanted. I mean, if people are
Anybody else
interested.
interested? Rick Porpola?
Rick, predict, I'll volunteer.
I'll volunteer also.
There you go. We should have all 21 boards on that.
We don't want to do that.
Efficient.
Just wait a minute here.
Oh, he's writing these.
He's ready. No, you gotta wait for him.
Okay, what's so pressing?
Nobody else's district in this county board is unique like mine is. There are 5 town boards District 20 has to meet: Chippewa, Shannon Golden, Gordon, Murrayville, and the village of Butternut. I'm not hollering. That's because somebody reorganized the districts. They don't have enough votes down there, so they came up to the town of Ringo and they cut it in half and took half the votes down there. Was that right? No.
That goes back to 2010 when it was done, and because you have to have a relatively equal number of voters in each district, and that was the only way they could divide it up, to get an equal number of voters in every district in the county.
The town population is not going down. It's constantly going down.
Right, right,
So they
but-
come up there and took the votes and took them down
Well,
there.
Because we have another uniqueness in this county, is that a little over half the county resides in the city of Ashland.
That's why they have.
And so that's why the districts outside the city of Ashland have to be configured weirdly, because they have to get the right number of voters in each. one of those.
Let's have that discussion on the next item. I think let's stick to the committee appointments here first. Chairman Kufal, who do you have listed as volunteers that want to serve on this committee?
Ron Sindor, Gary Murray, Rick Corpola, Kathy Schutte, and Pat Kenny. Yeah, five.
Well, no,
Matt McKenzie.
We've got four.
Matt McKenzie.
Matt,
We look a lot alike.
No.
Dick, wait.
it was Matt.
Oh, okay.
Dick,
Sorry.
hang on, you're on the clock. Okay, thank you. I saw this thing moving around, I'm like, you got the cord on your foot.
So we got five, we'll keep them all.
It's chairperson's choice.
Sure, what the hell?
All right,
On the board.
all right. Could you read off the names for the record then?
Ron Sindor, Gary Murray, Rick Corpola, Kathy Schutte, and Matt McKenzie.
And then in addition to the other members on there, which would be the county clerk, county administrator, the GIS land information officer. So that would be the motion that we would seek to approve and ratify that committee as listed.
Okay, do we have a motion? We have a motion from Mike Berlin, second by Richard Huber to ratify these individuals on the redistricting committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, when we get the data, we'll put together a list and make sure we reach out to you to try to schedule a meeting. I would anticipate it'd be one meeting because we're not gonna be able to have a lot of time to mess around with this. Okay,
All right, we'll go to number 7, number of districts in Ashley County. Yes.
I will with you. I'll second that.
Thank you.
All right. we have a
Discussion?
motion. Just hang on a minute. A motion and a second on the table to keep the same amount of districts we already have now. Discussion.
This is Supervisor Ortman, if I could have a crack at your discretion.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to bring up some of my experiences with other counties that downsized their districts. They forgot about all the committees and they ended up, a lot of them, everyone I talked to, I can't say all of them, but they regretted it because it forced them to make super committees and they would have 3 or 4 hour meetings where they were discussing what used to have been discussed by 2 or 3 committees. They were trying to do that all as one committee, and they said that made proper vetting very difficult, and they didn't feel like they were doing their fair job at the issues in a lot of cases, and they were getting overworked and burnt out. So I would caution against reducing districts just for that sake, from that experiential knowledge. But I would like to say that I feel we should mirror what the city does. If they decide to reduce districts, then I think we should probably copy that, but I could be talked out of that. I just think it might be difficult having different county wards and different city districts. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Laura?
Okay, then I'll get to be the odd man out. I do think we should reduce. I do think we should look at our committees and what things we go over and what ones we can combine. We're asking our staff and our departments to cut people, make efficiencies and everything, and this is a way to do it too. Yep, there might be a little bit longer committees. If you run a decent meeting, and we can keep those meetings shorter. At the least, I'd like to do that slight suggestion that Charlie said is to at least mirror the city and then even out with the outline. honestly, out of the 21 counties that have less than 25,000 people, there are 7, including us, that have 21 people. Otherwise, there's 2 with 20, 2 with 19, 3 with 17, 2 with 15, 1 with 14, 2 with 13, 1 with 12, 1 with 11. Now, the counties around us, Iron County has 15, Sawyer County has 15, Price County has 15, Bayfield County has 13. Oh, excuse me, Price County has 13. They can run their governments efficiently with that many people. So can we. Yep, there'll be a few more people in there. And yeah, it's the thing is making these districts isn't that hard. Brittany has huge skills. You put people in there, you push a button, you can put those in there, and it doesn't take that much. I mean, I know it's very simplified on that, and Brittany puts a lot more work into it than that, but it's not about dividing a city or anything. It's just about a head count that goes in there. And yeah, there would have to be changes to the places that people have to go. But if we're going to ask our departments this, and the people that this is the biggest thing that I've had people comment on to me about when they've talked about our budget situation and things. Why do we have 21 people on our board? Even Milwaukee County doesn't have that many. And I get they're all paid different, but they've got a valid point. And this is an overwhelming question. Out of all the issues we've had, this is an overwhelming question.
In the write-up, I'll just highlight, there's been 2 questions about the city. In my discussions with the city, they are waiting for what the county is going to decide. You're going to decide today. So you're not going to wait for the city. You either decide to keep at 21 or you decide to go down to another number. In discussions with the city, the optimum number for that what they would consider at this point would be moving from 11 to 9. So if we did that, we'd have to mirror it. We'd have 9 county board members in the city and 8 county board members in the south part of the county. That'd be a total of 17. Now, as Laura had said, counties with greater populations than this have less. I mean, each county board supervisor where I live in Washington County, 75,000 people per person. So it's not like you're going from 700 people to 1,000 people. You're going to be representing too many people. Right now, you average around 738 people per district. If you went down a couple, yeah, you're going to have to represent a few hundred more people. So I just wanted to highlight that if that was one of your considerations.
More discussion?
I'm not opposed to reducing the number of county board members. The only reason that I would suggest we stay at 21 right now is because of the crunch that we're under as far as redistricting. And I think if we change the number of board members, it's going to make it really difficult to redistrict according to that timeline that Clark had up here. Because it's just going to take more work to kind of work those districts around.
Make it in the form of a motion, Clarence.
We already have a motion.
It's already a motion.
All right.
I'll come up so the others can hear. Twice in the last decade, the city of Ashland looked at this issue of cutting seats. They have 11 seats, and for a city their size, they are the extreme outlier with 11 council members. 9 would get them still on the high side, but nobody else has 11. For the county, if we went from 21 to 17, you still have the same committees, unless you change your committees, you still have the same committees, and you'd have to assign people to them. So you're not going to save money on committees because you still have to staff them. And the average board member would see about a 23.5% increase in the number of committee meetings they have, which means people have to be willing to do that. So all you'd really save is if you had, say, 8 county board meetings a year and you cut 4 people for those 8 meetings, you save about $1,600 on employee time, board member salary, plus whatever costs associated with printing. It's not a lot for the county in terms of savings. For the city, because they don't use a committee system, if they went to 9, the average counselor, depending on the number of meetings a year, it's $2,600, $2,800 a year. They'd save, with printing costs, maybe $6,000 a year, so the city would save more than the county. But the key thing is if the city and the county don't have the same lines, just the cost for elections, because you'd have these different lines, you'd need more ballots, just the cost for the election would exceed whatever savings the city and the county has. So no matter what the city and county do, if you're looking at saving money, we've got to have the same lines. I don't have a strong preference one way or the other than we keep the same lines, whatever it turns out to be.
Anybody else? Matt?
Yeah, my concern here is what we lose in representation. If we reduce the number of size or number of districts, the sizes of the areas that they're gonna cover are larger. And in particular, we're gonna lose representation from the outlying areas of Ashland County. In that, we go from the island all the way down to Butter. We have a huge geographic area. A lot of those areas are sparsely populated, and we're just not gonna hear what they have of interest for us. And it's gonna boil down to the city's gonna have a larger say in what goes on. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I live in town. But, I think the money that we spend by having as large a board as we have works out. I don't agree with everybody in this room, and I'm sure you all don't agree with me on those issues. But that's what makes us all work, is that we air out our differences and we hear different ideas as far as what works and what doesn't work. And I think ultimately we come up with better decisions, even though it may have not been the decision that we wanted made, it's something we can live with. And I think that's what government is all about. We should leave it alone at this point at 21. And if we need to save money, there's other ways we can do it. We can reduce the amount of money that we get paid per diem. We've already looked at the number of meetings, we could always do that. So I guess to summarize is leave it at 21 and that keeps our representation for the full county.
Anybody else? Are you ready to vote? Okay. The motion has been made to keep the districts at 21 and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed, say no.
No,
It's overwhelmingly.
And I just will highlight, just for the edification, when Supervisor Shooty had talked about her district, on the screen here, her district is this yellow area here. And because of the lack of population down in these townships, they had to go all the way up to Nebringo. If you were to take that area away from her, she would have to add more people from somewhere else. So that you basically would have to take away from 21 or 19. It's a Cascadian event. Basically, when you start redistricting, you just can't take somebody's and say, you're going to represent 500 people, and now the next person has to represent 900 people. All of you have to represent around 700 people. So if you take that district away from district number 20, you're going to have to take something away from either 21 or 19. And of course, they're going to have to be, if you take away from 19, then you're going to have to add, you're going to have to take away from 18. 18 is going to have to take from 17. So there isn't any way to simply do this. You almost have to start at the bottom because you can't go into Iron County or Price County. These are set. And if you basically take something out of the middle, you have to assign it to somebody else. So I just want people to be aware of that asking the Brittany to do that would create some real disruptions in every district almost. Maybe by the time you get to the city, it wouldn't be as pronounced, but every district would have to change if you change one district significantly.
Richard, and I want to address that. I think we'll take that up when we meet.
Yeah.
But I do have some answers for Kathy. She's got a 40-mile district, which is the biggest BS I ever saw in my life. There is another way to do it. I think we can discuss it, whether it works. But some of those lines could be drawn east and west.
not that up to 40-mile district, because it's unfair to that rest to cover 40 miles and 52-mile county, not county. But I think that the committee can look at it, and if it needs to stay the same, it needs to stay the same, but my gut is you don't piece this or that, but we'll talk about it. Look at the-
Yeah, if we do come up with a more simplified version of this, there will be probably a number of you who will no longer be representing your district. You're gonna be moved into a new district, in which case that becomes a political issue, which is all of a sudden you have 6, 7 people that don't live there anymore. That's where the county board has some problems. What we want to try to do, because you're not, when you look at that timeline, you don't have a timeline to come back ad infinitum to the county board over and over again because you're not happy with the lines. So whatever we do, you're going to have to trust that it is done correctly. So, thank you.
Can I make one comment real quick, and it's regard to that district? Last time we redistrict, it was very important that when we did it, the members, many of the members on the committees, they did not want anybody to lose their seat in this group. And those lines were drawn with that in mind, which I don't think is correct, but that's why it was what it was.
One more thing.
Yeah.
So in my district, I don't get any mileage, I asked for copies to take down to Chippewa, the town of Chippewa. And one of the county board supervisors said, print them from your own home computer. That is not what you call democracy, to make me pay it out of my checkbook when I'm doing the work for the county. That doesn't make any sense. And Clarence and over there, the snickering that's been going on to this whole meeting is unprofessional.
I have a comment on that. If we actually wanted to reduce costs, we'd look at those paper costs. We'd go to something that was all electronic, because those are the things that cost the most. We missed a huge opportunity here to at least show that we were just as committed to the staff and also to the county people. Because like I said, this thing is the overwhelming thing that I hear about, is we don't need that many representatives. And if it's a concern about not having good representation, if you have a bigger district, then that's the person that gets elected there. And I was the one that suggested that you print them off if you take it in places, because that's what I do. When I meet with people, I print things off myself. This job isn't, with the $50 a meeting, is not going to cover our expenses. Somewhere in here, there's got to be something that's got to give, and we're already over on our travel budget. So how are we over on our travel budget already this year?
Okay, now we've already decided the redistricting committee. We've already decided the number of districts we're going to keep. Let's move right along to the RPA update. Let's move it first.
We have to hold on that line.
Yes. Yeah,
we did.
Okay, on this item here, this is a continual item which you'll see going forward for your American Rescue Plan Act dollars. At the previous meetings, the county board gave authorizations. Hang on, let me get my link here. Gave authorizations for the county administrator to make small time purchases that are under $5,000. Let me get this a little bit bigger here. And so this is an online link, which basically staff are sharing. And so the highlighted in green are the things which we're making purchases on, again, under $5,000, and the proper the proper level, the proper authorization underneath all the different scenarios that have people to do that. So that being said, we're still working through this. We'll be coming to the executive committee with some purchases that are over $5,000, because the committee the board had directed $5,000 to last county administrator, $5,000 to $50,000 approval by a committee made up of finance and executive committee together. And then anything over 50 to be at the county board level. So we're slowly working through here. One of the things that we're asking for today, it's in your packet, is within the guidelines, you can see that the federal treasury guidelines, behavioral health treatment is a authorized first level authorized use of this money. What we're asking the county board to do is set aside $1 million for out-of-home placements, basically high-cost court-ordered mental health treatments. Again, this is more of a cash flow operation. So we have the first $1.5 million in a separate bank account, so we don't spend it on something. And what we're so far since the month of March, whereas the beginning of the ARPA authorizations and utilizations. We've got one placement that we spent 170 on, and we got another person going in. Again, you don't have a choice to do these. These are money that you have to spend. It's coming out of the general fund. What we're recommending from the Health and Human Services Department is that we set aside $1 million, $250,000 a year to reimburse ourselves for behavioral health treatment that is authorized by this ARPA money. This money would just go back into the general fund for money we've already spent. And this would be net of any state reimbursement. So a lot of times you have somebody going down, it might cost $30,000 or $40,000 a month for Institute for Mental Disease placement. The state helps out a little bit with that. We would work with Pete Hurley and Sue. It's not quite as simple as what I say. Sue keeps telling me it's more complicated, but she says we'll figure it out. And then we basically would just replace the money that came out of the general fund for these court-ordered behavioral health treatments. And the reason we're asking the county board to weigh in on this right now is we want to make sure as we go through and we analyze other large purchases that we don't over promise our $3 million. The $3 million is going to go quickly. But I want to be able to take a pot of money and reserve it for this particular use. If in 2 years, you guys have blown through that $1 million already, then I would say, come back again if you haven't spent it already. But this is the first $1 million I would like the county board to set aside for behavioral health court-ordered treatment. Questions?
No.
I move for adoption of that $1 million set aside for health and human services.
I'll see, we have a motion by Bill Metzinger, we have a second by Clarence Stanfield.
Can we do that?
Are we ready to vote?
What?
Can we, I guess, point of order, can we do this and that it's not on the agenda? I mean, all we have is a broad title in there, RPA update. It's not saying that we're going to allocate funds.
The packet says move to approve ARPA funds for allowable high-cost placement. This is what was publicly noticed on the county website and was sent out to all the county board members.
I understand that's what it says as a note in that packet, but I'm just concerned about how the agenda reads and, that we're just concerned. I don't have a problem with this money being dedicated to that either. I want to say that, but I'm just concerned that we don't have people starting to object that we're trying to sneak stuff through or hide things because it's not real clear.
It can't be clearer than the motion. That's as clear as day. Move to approve ARPA funding.
I don't think it's clear as the agenda, is what I'm saying. It's clear in the packet there. If you read through the whole packet.
I agree with Supervisor McKenzie on this. The agenda item title says ARPA update, and that means an update that in no way indicates any particular type of action that will be taken. So I agree with him. I think this needs to come back as an action item. Something further into the document suggesting a motion is different than the title. And I know the city of Ashland has issues in the past where the title of an agenda item has had to redo certain things simply because of that title. I fully support doing this, but I would prefer we come back with a title that indicates that and we pass it at the next meeting.
I agree.
I will withdraw my motion. I'll withdraw myself.
Okay. Motion is withdrawn and the second is withdrawn. Anything else on that part?
Nope.
All right. On to-
Heather, when you say regular agenda, would it be fair to say, when you post that, to say regular agenda and actions? Or is that?
That agenda item title's got to indicate what your.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is just an update. The title itself has to indicate what you're intending to ask the board to do.
Yes.
And whatever you action may take, it has to be within the scope of whatever that title says. So that no one could come back later and says it was the illegal. Yeah, and the city's dealt with that issue, so.
Okay.
County administrator updates.
Everybody should get a green book and a 2021-22 directory from WCA. Some of you have got that already. I also have brought up the folders which sit down in the county administrator's office. Do not take the folders, just take the material out of there. So some of you have picked that stuff up, but we're trying to clean this stuff up. So take that stuff home with you. Just to update, we sold 11 acres on the island for $315,000. And we sold a 2-acre parcel on the island with a cabin, small little cabin for $94,000. So good work on staff doing that. We're still working on the gas station down in Glidden. So we're working, the committee, we've had this gas station down there for quite a while. The committee voted this past week to, somebody that expressed interest in it at the minimum bid price. And we're going to be working on trying to get them on a contract for deed over a 6-month period to see if we can get that off our hands also. I've been working with broadband providers with these different grants. Obviously the ARPA funds, broadband is another allowable use for that. And it's important for us to try to market ourselves to remote workers who want to live in the North Woods. So I think we want to, maybe putting up current maps of current conditions and possible new projects so that remote workers who want to try to move or stay in Ashland County would have an easy time to ascertaining what's out there. But it's a very time-consuming operation. There's many different grants from the federal government, the state government, there's ARPA funds, and there's multiple providers. It's I've not had a ton of time, but I want to keep working on that. Now Glidden EMS, they basically, they notified us, and again, this is too small for you to read, but basically the Glidden EMS service is back up and running, taking care of basically this area, 4 towns in here. And then you have Park Falls dealing with these other ones. So that's effective as of today on the 20th. So that's excellent news. We've been working on that. The towns meetings and the towns association since last fall. And they are up and running with their goal is to have the paid staff during the day and volunteers at night. So they're going through that, piecing that together. And of course, that Marengo basically put together a volunteer service. I'm still working with the towns in the long run to at least provide a seed that may be germinating to say, in my opinion, you probably need to create a large South 6-town ambulance district that would all go together to provide long-term contracts. But the good news is now everybody in the county does have a service. So that's very good news. Census redistricting update, we kind of went through that with PDF. Just to let you know, we're gonna need a couple more county board meetings for public hearings on this stuff. I don't know if it will align with your current county board schedules, because we're gonna have to be relatively quick to do this. I would anticipate at least 2 extra county board meetings just to approve this census, given the timelines we have. The county administrator search, we have 2 candidates. We have Daniel Grady, who's coming from Abbotsford. He'll be here on Thursday and Friday. And then we have Patrick Marsh from Pittsburgh, and he'll be here on Thursday and Friday. Candidate Pat Ullman more or less has dropped out. He is not very responsive, so we have determined him not to be eligible anymore. And then Dana Shoring, he is from Wichita Falls, Texas. He's from Wisconsin. He's actually coming up next week to visit family. I have encouraged the search firm to reach out to him to see if he could attend a interview via Zoom on Friday, along with the department heads. And so that is yet to be determined if he will basically be part of the consideration. We're still working on that avenue of it. The timeline or the schedule is we're having a tour basically from 2:15 to 4:30 here around the county. I have staff taking people around. 4 o'clock to 6, candidates will meet and greet the county board. So I would encourage you to come back here and meet the candidates. If you want to talk to them, interact with them. We'll have probably this room and probably courtroom number 1 probably available for us. So the candidate can sit and chat with whoever wants to show up. And then maybe halfway through this, we'll have the candidates switch positions and the county board can just stay here. And so if you're interested in meeting the candidates, that would be the opportunity to come. And then the next day, Friday, 9 o'clock would be interviews with the executive committee, 9 and 10 o'clock. In addition, 9 o'clock would be a conversations with staff, with the department heads. So if you want to come and attend the executive committee in closed session, it'd be 9 o'clock interview and a 10 o'clock interview. And then after that, the committee would decide, do they do either of these 1, 2, or 3 candidates based on if we have a person via Zoom. If the committee is satisfied and think one of these candidates will be your candidate of choice, they would vote on that. If they're not satisfied, they would basically direct the search firm to do something different. And that could mean going back to the same candidate pool. That could mean starting the process over. That could be reevaluating how you want to go through the next search. So that decision will be made on Friday. And then if the committee does land on one of these candidates, they would direct the PAA to negotiate a contract with the person to come back to the county board. And we would have to try to get a county board meeting as quickly as we can put together to ratify that contract, just because in today's market, people are drifting, they're getting jobs quickly. You don't want to sit on something for a month before it's ratified. But we can't set any county board date because we don't have any idea if the executive committee is going to recommend one of these candidates or not. So that's kind of the update. Again, I would encourage you to come between 4 and 6 p.m. on Thursday. If you would like to sit and chat, there isn't a formal meeting. It's a chance for you and or people from the city or the community to come and ask questions.
Are you going to put on the schedule on this?
Yes. Yeah, I was waiting
It's
until.
a little confusing because we already had one and then we threw that out.
Well, part of it was as of Friday, we still had 3 or 4 candidates. As of yesterday, we only have 2.
Yeah, we might have one tomorrow.
Yeah, and so it's not quite, it's a fluid situation.
Oh, I gotta tell you, we've gone through this before and I don't think I've ever seen it more accommodating to keep candidates. They drop them like flies and we keep moving the date so that they can make it. Oh, a lot of times they're out looking for another job when they should have been here. Well, if they're not that sincere about it, I can't see hitting their schedule all the time, maybe once, but 2, 3 times, that's crazy. Anyway, are you done?
No.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Gary's got a hand.
Sorry.
Gary's got a hand.
Gary.
Just a clarification question. How are we getting around Thursday? Full county board sitting there, we not have a meeting.
I talked to Max on it. It is technically a meeting. It is noticed. Heather has noticed it. So it is a quorum. Even though we're not going to be gaveling in, we're not going to be gaveling out. There isn't any agenda. There isn't any minutes. There isn't any. So this is it. Let's say, let's say there's a business that opened up here in town, and the business had an opening and all 21 of you showed up at there. Well, you would have a quorum. So we would basically notice that as there may be a quorum at this particular event. We're noticing this as a quorum, but we have no agenda. There's no topic. There's no decisions. It's just a community event. The budget timeline, the finance committee had met, talked about the budget timeline. We basically are sending out, Lori is sending out the budget information today. We're going to get the budget information back from the department heads on the 12th of August. We will have a meeting, a first meeting with the finance committee on the 17th of August to go through top line discussions on that. We will basically then in the months of September, we'll get our debt limit report, levy limit worksheet, equalized value, insurance numbers. We'll hopefully have a draft. We'll receive our share revenue report. And then finance committee will meet back again on the 21st of September. So 2 meetings with them. Right now, I'm scheduling a county board meeting on this, what does that say, the 5th of October. So this will be your opportunity to weigh in on the budget before, before the public hearing, because I want to make sure that the first time you see it isn't November. We basically would then change the budget to reflect that. Finance committee would meet again on October 14th to basically align the budget with any county board direction that was decided on the 5th. And then we'll talk to the bank. We'll line up our debt levy loan. We'll provide a notice for a public hearing, publish it, and on November 9th, board meeting, public hearing concerning approving the county budget. This information is on the finance committee packet that happened. I don't know when the finance meeting happened. That last week?
I think so.
Yeah, anyway, it's on the finance committee on the website. So if you need that information there. Other upcoming, just one other thing, I attended a drug court graduation this week. It was a very moving experience to watch somebody work so hard for turning their lives around. We have drug court check-ins every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, mostly on Zoom, but you can attend in person. I'd encourage you, if you want to attend those. I think it's interesting to see, how we're working with people to try to divert them away from going into jail or prison, because everybody's life goes down the hole when you go into jail. I don't care if it's for a week or for a year. And this is a one way where the judge is having almost weekly contact with these individuals to say, how many days are you sober? How are you working towards housing? How are you working towards jobs? How are you working towards education? And this is what these people do in lieu of going to jail. It's a very meaningful program. Ms. Clarence?
I just add to that was started several years ago now. Almost on a one-time grant program, and we've become kind of a model program for other counties in the state. And that grant has continually been renewed and renewed and renewed because of the success of it.
Yeah, I was very impressed. I mean, it was especially the graduation. You got family, you got friends, The one I attended earlier last year, they had tribal elders. They presented an eagle feather to this tribal member. I mean, very, very moving. PPLE, Public Property Law Enforcement meeting is Monday the 26th at 5. The executive committee again is meeting 9 o'clock this week for interviews. If they pick someone, we'll have to have a county board to ratify it. And then finance meeting on the 17th. On the finance meeting on August 17th, we're going to be having an update from our fiscal consultants. These are the people that the Department of Revenue wants to have us have a better handle on our cash flow analysis. In addition, they are also looking at how we budget and providing, right now they have 28 recommendations for us on how we can improve our finance management within our organization without having a finance director. And they're going to prioritize that for implementation over the next 12 to 18 months, because you won't be able to do all those things simultaneously. This will be a very good path. I'm very excited about it for the next county administrator to have a path to work towards and improving the county financial management. In addition, we're going to have our first analysis summary by M3. They are healthcare consultants, as we've talked about many times before. Our self-funded plan has been in the hole. These guys are going to help us manage that to figure out how can we make that to be sustainable and something that we can keep doing without putting money into it. On an interesting note, in my weekly county administrators meetings, there's a couple counties around us. They're like, we got to get into self-funded insurance, and I'm just kind of like, okay. It's like, boy, I don't know. People, I mean, I'll be leaving you guys in a month or two here, but people, the one reason that counties like this is because it provides you with the opportunity to fix your healthcare numbers earlier on in the budgetary system. A lot of times you don't get from a regular fully insured plan, you don't get that information till October because it's not good. It's only good for 60 days. When you are self-insured, if you have reserves, a minimum of 25% cash on hand for your yearly expenditures, you can set your yearly allocation in July. Now, if you're high or low, you have to make that adjustment the following year. We either kept too much money or we didn't make enough money. Then you make those adjustments, but you have enough cash. In our case, we probably would not be able to do that type of estimations until you have over $1 million of cash just for the health insurance fund alone. And I just kind of wanted to highlight that. That's one of the things that we can expect out of this. That's my update, Chairman.
Okay, County Board Supervisor reports. Anybody have anything to report?
I do. Just to remind everybody, the county fair is up next month. It's about a month. It's August 19th to the 22nd. On Sunday at noon, we're having the County Board Supervisors Horseshoe Tournament. This year, we're not doing trophies. We're doing cash, $20 for first place team, 10 for second place, 5 for third place, and we're doing strawberry sundaes from 4-H thing for each person that participates. Oh, and Laura Necro, you're the beating champion right now, so you have to come defend your title.
So y'all come and try to beat me.
For the year before.
Anybody else? Yeah, Rich.
Got one thing I'm like, educated is, when you walk into this courtroom, you got a nice American flag, but the pole looks like crap. I mean, it doesn't look good.
It does.
It shouldn't, I mean, this courthouse should look decent.
Yeah, it needs paid.
Yeah.
I did this under administrator's duties.
I second that motion.
What do? You stay up there and then you just come down and sponge?
And if all the fire department that's cheating, you have to do it yourself.
Look like a pole climber.
Yeah, thanks there.
Okay, no more county board reports. Turn in your vouchers.
And pick up your stuff here, pick up your brochures here.
I guess that's all. We need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Second by Belinda.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.